Something big just happened in Latin America. The United States and Venezuela are now on the edge of a serious conflict. Explosions were reported, military forces were involved, and the shocking reports say the Venezuelan president may have been targeted or detained. Washington says it acted for security reasons. Caracas says it was an invasion. The world is watching, and the rules of global power may be changing right now. This is not just about Venezuela. This is about who controls the region, who sets the rules, and how far the US is willing to go. In the last few days, tensions between the United States and Venezuela reached a breaking point. What started as a political pressure turned into military action. Airstrikes were reported near Caracas, K locations were hit, and K is followed. The US government says Venezuela has become a threat. They accuse its leadership of crime, drugs, and instability. They say this operation was necessary, they say it was limited, and they say it was successful. Venezuela tells a very different story. They call it an illegal attack. They say their sovereignty was violated. They say the US crossed a red line. Now, global powers are reacting. Some support Washington, others strongly condemned it. International law is being questioned, and the future of Venezuela is uncertain. So, what really happened? Why now? And what could happen next? That's what we'll break down in this episode. The conflict did not start overnight. It has been building for years, slowly, quietly, and sometimes openly. The United States has never recognized Nicolas Maduro as legitimate leader. Washington has accused his government of corruption, drug trafficking, and human rights abuses. Sanctions followed, heavy sanctions. Venezuela's economy collapsed. Oil exports were restricted. Money stopped flowing. Billions of people left the country. The crisis got worse every year. At the same time, the United States increased pressure. More military presence in the Caribbean, more surveillance flights, more warnings, more threats. The US said Venezuela became a hub of criminal networks. They said drugs were moving north. They said armed groups were being protected. And they said the Maduro government was no longer in control. Caracas denied everything. They said the US was lying. They said sanctions were the real weapon. They said Washington wanted Venezuela's oil, and they warned that any military move would be answered. Then things escalated fast. In recent months, US forces intercepted vessels, airspace activity increased, diplomatic channels went silent, and military language replaced political language. This was no longer about talks, it was about force. And when diplomacy fails, history shows what usually comes next. What happened next shocked many people. Late at night, reports starting coming out of Caracas. Loud explosions, heavy aircraft sounds, and sudden military movement. According to US officials, the operation was fast and precise. Targets were selected in advance. Military and security locations were hit. The goal, they said, was not war. The goal was control. Special forces were reportedly involved. The operation focused on command centers and leadership circles. Within hours, reports claimed that the president, Nicolas Maduro, was no longer in control of the situation. Some sources said he was detained. Others said he was removed from power. The US government did not release full details immediately. They said the mission was still ongoing. They said American forces were not there to occupy Venezuela. They said this was about security, not conquest. Inside Venezuela, the picture looked very difficult. People reported fear and confusion, power outages in some areas, roadblocks, armed soldiers in the streets. The Venezuelan government called it a direct invasion. They said the US violated international law. They said this was an attack on sovereignty, and they called on the military and the people to resist. Within hours, the country was on edge. Airports shut down. Borders were tightened, and the future became unclear. This was no longer political tension. This was action. And once action begins, there's no easy way back. The reaction was immediate and it was intense. Within hours, governments around the whole world responded. Some supported the United States, others strongly condemned the action. Many called for calm, very few stayed silent. US allies said Washington had the right to defend its security. They repeated accusations against Venezuelan leadership. They said this was a response to long term instability, and they urged Venezuela to avoid further escalation. But other global powers disagreed. Russia called the operation illegal. China worried against violating sovereignty. They said this could destabilize the entire region. They accused the United States of acting without international approval. In Latin America, fear spread quickly. Neighboring countries worried about spillover, refugee flows, economic shock, and possible regional conflict. The United Nations was pulled into the crisis. Emergency meetings were requested. Calls for investigation followed, but no clear solution appeared. International law experts raised serious questions. They asked whether the United States had legal justification. They questioned the use of force without UN approval, and they warned this could set a dangerous precedent. On social media, the word was divided. Some celebrated the fall of Maduro, others warned this way regime may change by force. Narratives clashed, facts became harder to verify. One thing was clear: this was not just a local crisis, this was a global moment, and its impact would not fade quickly. Now, the big question is simple: what happens next? In the short term, Venezuela faces deep uncertainty. Power structures are shaken, security is fragile, and the risk of internal chaos is real. If leadership collapses, a power vacuum may follow. Different groups may fight for control. The military may split, and civilians could pay the price. The United States says it does not want a long conflict. It says this was a limited action. But history shows the limited actions can grow fast, especially when national pride is involved. There's also the regional risk. Neighboring countries could be affected, migration could increase, markets could react, and political tensions could spread across Latin America. On the global level, this moment matters. It challenges international law, it tests the idea of sovereignty, and it sends a clear message about power in today's world. Some see this as justice, others see it as dangerous precedent. The debate will not end soon. What is certain is this: Venezuela will not be the same. US foreign policy will face some hard time, and the world has entered another uncertain chapter. This story is still unfolding, facts are still emerging, and the consequences are still unknown. We will keep watching, we will keep analyzing, and we will keep separating facts from noise because moments like this do not just shape headlines, they shape history.